our series, the stories that Jesus told. And this morning we're going to continue with two parables that we'll be talking about today. And those two parables are the parables of the wheat and the tares, and the parable of the sheep and the goats. Both of these parables have similar themes. Both represent the existence of the kingdom of God in this world even now, today, but the reality that unbelief and evil still coexist with faith and righteousness. They represent the future judgment at the end of the age when Christ returns and the kingdom of God is complete and full. And they represent God's recognition of those who are His and those who are not. We are known by our fruit, and the blessing and the reward that awaits us in Christ's fullness are presented in both of these parables. These are the themes that these two parables address, and so they're so similar that we're going to dig into both of them together this morning at the same time. So the parable of the wheat and the tares is found in Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 to 30. And the parable of the sheep and the goats is found in Matthew 25, verses 31 to 46. So if you have your Bibles and you'd like to follow along, you might go to Mark, Matthew chapter 13, and Matthew chapter 25. And if you have your app, let's start with chapter 13 in Matthew at verse 24. And I'm going to be reading from the NIV today. We'll begin with the parable of the wheat among the tares. Starting at verse 24, Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. Now, he's not saying it's like this man. He's saying that it's like a man sowing a good crop in his field. So it's the sowing part and the crop part, not just the man, that it's like. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sows good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then he went away. Now that might seem like a strange thing to do, but in the ancient world it was common practice to sow the seeds of unwanted plants in your enemy's field. If you were at war with someone, or if you were feuding with someone, you could undermine their strength and the strength of their army or their economy by destroying their crops. You would destroy their agricultural base and damage them and damage their ability to fight back against you. Today we worry about our enemies using things like biological warfare or chemical warfare. But in the ancient world, they worried about their enemies who practiced agricultural warfare against them. When the wheat sprouted, verse 26, and formed seed heads, then the weeds also appeared. So the weeds that the enemy sowed in the farmer's field were not completely visible. They were not recognizable until the heads of wheat, the heads of grain, formed on the tops of the wheat. The plant that was likely sowed in this field is called darnel, or tares. That's why some of the translations say tares and some of them say weeds. To sow darnel in someone's wheat field was a punishable crime according to the Roman law. It was difficult to tell the difference between the wheat and the tares, but the darnel was actually poisonous and had a caustic effect on animals and on people alike. And so you didn't dare eat the fruit of the plant until you knew which one was which. And as it forms the grains on the top of both plants, it becomes clear because the fruit is different. The grain is the fruit is different, and the plants are known by their fruit. Verse 27 says that the owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you were pulling the weeds, you might also uproot the wheat with them. So as the weeds grew up with the wheat, the roots become intertwined. And so to pull up the tares, the weeds, before it was time for harvest, you may also uproot the good plants of wheat that you want to grow, besides the fact that you may not quite be able to tell which one is which until they are fully mature and ready for harvest. And so a good farmer would allow the wheat to grow together with the weeds, or the tares, until they were ready for harvest, so that the desired plant would not be harmed. So then in verse 30, the farmer instructs the workers, let them both grow together until the harvest. And at that time I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds, tie them in bundles to be burned, and then gather the wheat and bring them into my barn. So they harvest all of it together, and they separate the weeds from the wheat. And they burn the weeds, and they keep the weeds. So when the wheat had been harvested, it went into the farmer's barn. If we skip down to verse 36, Jesus explains why he is telling this story and what it means. Skipping down to verse 36. Then Jesus left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, explain to us this parable of the wheat in the field. And he answered, the one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. Now the Son of Man is Jesus. Jesus is the sower of the good seed. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The people of the kingdom, that's the believers, the followers of Christ. The weeds are the people of the evil one. Those are the people who are unbelievers and all of those who do evil in the world. And the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are the angels. And the word harvest is used a lot as a common metaphor back then, a common metaphor for the judgment. So when we hear him talking about the harvest, we know Jesus is talking about the final judgment. Verse 40, as the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. And the end of the age is the final judgment when Christ returns. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing furnace, and there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So there will be a lot of regret. There will be a lot of pain. There will be heartache from those who are not taken into the barn. The ones who are separated out and thrown into the furnace will be full of regret. But then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear. So the kingdom of God is represented and is present now and is growing in this world. But sin and unbelief and evil continue to exist right alongside the kingdom. We see evidence of this all around us today. Even as the kingdom grows around us, evil still happens. We see things like teenage girls abducted from their homes and their parents murdered. We see people shot in their neighborhoods. We see worshipers killed in their synagogues, and we see women shot on their way to yoga class. The good news is that God won't allow this evil and this kind of sin to go on forever. The good news is that when Christ returns, the evil will be dealt with. And that gives us a sense of hope, doesn't it? It gives me hope. But the hard news is, the hard thing to swallow sometimes, is that judgment also awaits those who simply don't believe. Those who don't follow Jesus. Just as God will not allow evil to continue forever, God will also not tolerate unbelief forever. And I know sometimes it's hard for us to accept that people will face judgment simply because they are indifferent to God, or they are ignoring God, or denying God, or these seem like pretty passive offenses, don't they? Lots of people have a hard time accepting that unbelief and apathy toward God are enough to justify God's judgment. In fact, the majority of people in America today refuse to believe that anyone, except for maybe the most heinous of criminals, deserves God's judgment. One research organization reported that 60% of Americans believe that all people will be reunited with their loved ones in heaven. And the thing that was most surprising about this research was that those with evangelical beliefs, that would be the church, were most likely to agree that all people go to heaven when they die. But Scripture tells us that that simply isn't true. It's not the case. And these two parables, this parable and the parable of the sheep and the goat, which we will see shortly, they make it clear that not everyone will receive an eternal reward, and that indifference or unbelief or apathy is anything but passive as an offense. In Luke 11:23, Jesus said, "Whoever is not with me is against me." So if we're not with Jesus purposefully, we might think that we're nothing. But Jesus says, if you're not with me, it's not nothing. If you're not with me, you are against me. We're either for God or we're against God. There is no in between. There is no other choice. When we choose unbelief, we choose to stand against God. And everyone who is against God will ultimately face judgment. I know this is a hard message to hear, isn't it? But this reality should cause us great concern. It really should. It should alarm us enough that we want to reach every unbeliever with the saving message of the gospel before it's too late. If we grasp the reality of judgment and we comprehend the consequence of our sin and unbelief, we will feel the urgency in reaching those who are lost. Well, now let's turn with me to Matthew 25, verses 31 to 46. And here Jesus continues to speak about the final judgment. And this is the parable of the story about the sheep and the goat. Starting at verse 31, it says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right, and the goats on his left. Now, herds of sheep and herds of goats were raised for their milk and their meat and their hides. Sheep were raised for their wool, and it was not unusual to raise sheep and goats together. Some shepherds raised only sheep and some only goats, and many raised both and let them graze out in the pastures together at the same time, because goats were browsers and they typically ate grass and bushes and leaves and tree shrubs. But the sheep were grazers and they stuck to things that were close to the ground. They preferred just grass or broadleaf plants. So you could allow them to graze in the same pasture because they usually didn't compete for the same food. Sheep and goats were separated at night, however, by their shepherds, because goats needed a warmer shelter. They needed warm shelter at night. Their coats were not as thick and luxurious as sheep. Sheep, with their thick and, really dense coats, preferred open air at night. And so the shepherds would separate them. And Jesus says that at the final judgment, he will separate people. He will separate all of us the way a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. At verse 34, it says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom that's prepared for you since the creation of sheep and goats to represent believers and unbelievers. The sheep on his right represent the believers, those who are found to be righteous. A king's right side, a king's right-hand side, was considered to be a place of honor. And then Jesus explains that he knows the sheep from the goats. He explains how he knows the sheep from the goats and why the sheep have a place of honor and receive the blessing. In 35, this is what he explains. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Now, these are simple acts of mercy that any one of us can do every day, any day. They don't require any special gifting or any special skills. They are demonstrations of practical discipleship, and they represent the kind of actions that true disciples display. Jesus recognizes who his true disciples are by the way they live. The point is not that what we do saves us, but what we do demonstrates that we are saved.